Towards Understanding with Clayton Bielen values being a positive radio program for everyone. As we present today's episode, please accept this little ears warning. Some of the themes discussed may not be suitable for children.
This is Towards Understanding, and my guest today is Damien May from Destiny Rescue. And just a fair warning, we're going to be talking about slavery, modern day slavery and sex slavery as well, and especially rescuing kids out of that. So just to understand, we're going to be touching off on those issues today. Damien, thank you so much for joining us.
Welcome. Thank you very much for having me.
Now, I've given the short spiel of it. Is there a better way to describe the work of it, of what is Destiny's Rescue?
Well, yeah, basically we go into some of the darkest places throughout Asia and over in South America and look for and identify children that are being trafficked or sold into sexual slavery, and then come up with a plan, come up with a way to get those kids out, either by working with the local authorities, police, or what we called soft rescue, where we build relationships with the kids and get them out on their own accord.
Yeah, right. Sorry for this horrendous phrase, perhaps. It sounds like reverse kidnapping. Is that sort of an okay thing to say, or is this like, I should never have said that, Clayton?
No, it's...
so for a good reason, you know.
Yeah, when we work with the police, the authorities, obviously the children are removed forcibly for their own safety.
Yes.
And then, the bad guys are arrested.
Yeah.
The other way we rescue is just by building relationships. We call it soft rescue style.
Yes.
And we build relationships over a period of time and allow the children to see that there's a better way.
Yeah, great.
Never exposing who we are, but rather connecting them with our social workers or caseworkers to then talk to them about the ways that we can help them through aftercare programs.
Yeah. There's so much we want to talk about, and we are going to get to so many levels of this. Lots of questions that are about to come at you. But let's just start with your story specifically, because about 9 or 10 years ago, you weren't over in Southeast Asia and other parts of the world doing this. No. You're a plumber, is this correct?
Correct, yeah. I was a plumber up on the sunny coast.
Yeah.
And had a plumbing business. And one day God said to me, it's time to... I had been over, done a couple of short stints to Asia, one for Destiny Rescue and one for another organisation where I met the founder of Destiny before it started. But yeah, it was just God, like a voice or God saying to me, time to go back and get your hands dirty.
Mm.
And within 6 months of that conversation, I was back over there.
Incredible.
Yeah, been there for about 9 years.
Yeah. So when you say, all right, well, this is the work we're going to do, and I'm sure most of us are sitting there going, well, how do you possibly train to do this work in the right way? It seems like you need a mix of everything from, a psychology degree to a martial arts degree, potentially, as we go through this. So what training did you actually have as you went over and said, well, all right, this is the work that I feel like God's asking me to do?
Initial training, not a lot. I knew how to put pipes in the ground and fix water problems. But it was a lot of it's been trial and error for us, learning by our mistakes, learning how to do things on the run. Because when we started this, rescuing children about 10 years ago, there was no manual on how to do it. And so we've learnt how to do things just by the trial and error, things that work well and things that don't work too well. Yeah, right. An example of that is us as rescue workers. We never never expose who we are. Yeah. Now, in the early days, we would be the ones making the offer to the children in the bar or outside the bar. Yep. But that became dangerous when, for whatever reason, a girl returned to the bar. She would identify us.
Yes. And
that happened one time, and a guy met me at the front door of the bar with a gun and put it in my face and said, "I don't want you coming in here. We know what you're doing." So that was a big learning thing for us.
Yeah, yeah.
I was, okay,
what a dramatic way to learn it. Yeah.
And that was on the run. So we had to, we learnt, okay, we've got to change things in the way we expose ourselves and rescue.
Yes.
So now the rescue workers don't mention who we are or who we work for. We have our covers of businessmen, and that type of thing. I won't go into how we do it.
No, that's and understandably why too. So let's talk about the places in the world that you are working at the moment. What are they?
We're in throughout 6 countries in Asia.
Yep.
And over in Dominican Republic.
Yeah.
So I won't mention all the countries. But
no, that's fine. No problems. Just to
in
get
Asia.
Yeah,
basically in Asia.
Absolutely. And the worldwide stats around trafficking, and especially sort of also children's sex trafficking, is just horrendously mind blowing, isn't it?
Yeah, I see it firsthand. But one of our fundraising coordinators here, she was talking about statistics just yesterday that there's an estimated 1.2 million kids are added to this issue every year.
Oh my goodness!
And I think it is statistic-wise one every 26 seconds.
That's just
so you could do the maths on this interview of how long this takes. Yeah. You could actually see how many kids have just been added in this time that we've been talking. So it's a huge problem within Asia. I think it's like 7 out of 10 of the victims worldwide are just in Asia alone. So. That's why we're mainly concentrating throughout Asia, and it's quite obviously quite a number of Asian countries are quite poor, and so wherever there's poverty, there's this desperation and these sort of things happen.
Yeah. Can you take us through, and understand if you can't use names and those sorts of things, but could you take us through, I suppose, a journey of how this happens? The first thing I'd imagine would be you identify a child. How do you go about that, and what are the next steps that occur?
Yeah, so we have teams of guys, our staff. They're mostly nationals, and a few Westerners that oversee the runnings of it. My role is International Rescue Director, so I look after the countries that we're working in and have great staff that are working in heading up these rescue operations. So basically, we're out there looking most nights for these kids that are in these vulnerable situations. So they could be karaoke bars, massage parlours, street brothels, prostitutions, and street pimps and that sort of thing. So depending on the situation and what the situation the girls are in or the kids are in, is what plan do we come up with then? So we can either organise some sort of a party that we're needing, these kids for, and come up with basically a lie or a plan to get these kids there, and then the police get involved. And Destiny Rescue comes up with the evidence, the video evidence, everything to hand on to the police to start the case. Yeah. And then working with the police, we come up with a plan to execute it and get the children out. And I don't want to go into too much on how we do it because it'll give it away. Yep, sure. But that's basically how we run.
It feels like it sounds like it's a little bit private eye work, but unlike most perhaps private eyes where you would have somebody who says, look, I've identified this person, this is where you go and look, you've got to go and discover where to look as well at the start. Yeah,
we're also using informants. Yep. Keep in mind we've been there 9, some of us 10 years, so we've got good contacts on the streets, and the local guys that we work with as well, that we employ, our staff have good local contacts as well. So whenever these kids pop up in these areas, we get notified, and then we can go and investigate and then start a case.
Yeah. It's remarkable work, isn't it? There's plenty more questions I've got, including how do Damien and his colleagues cope with this work? I'm imagining mentally, and psychologically for themselves. How do they cope with this? And also the remarkable work so far. We've just talked about that immediate rescue. The further work that is happening with these kids from that moment on as well. Destiny Rescue, an incredible organisation, and we're having a chat to the International Rescue Director, Damien May, here this evening. We're going to be back in just a couple of minutes' time.
Share your brand, your event, your message across 90 Christian radio stations and major cities in Australia and New Zealand by sponsoring Towards Understanding, hosted by Clayton Bielan. More than 210,000 people tune into Towards Understanding each week, and with just one sponsorship, you'll reach this immense engaged audience. Find out more about this exciting and unique opportunity now on the sponsorship page at positivemedia.com.au.
Damien, let's go through this next phase of it, because this is fantastic that this work is happening. There's a great number of kids that you've actually rescued. Maybe we'll start with that question. Do you have a number of kids that you've actually rescued over the last 10 years or so?
Yeah, it's close to, it's about 3,300, 3,400.
Remarkable.
Just a couple of days ago, in 2 days, we rescued 51, just in 2 ops. So it's jumped up. We'll have this week's figures out soon, but just this year alone, we've rescued over 800, which is up 319 up from last year.
It's fantastic. And
so, yeah, doing well.
Yeah, absolutely. And every single one of these kids' lives changed forever because of what's occurred.
Sure.
So the rescuing is one part of it, and obviously that's a central part of it. But to take the child away and then say, well, there it is, that's great. And if we left them to it from there, the chance of them getting back into that life would probably be pretty high. Yeah. So Destiny Rescue makes sure that doesn't happen. What's the next steps for a child once you've rescued them?
Yeah, the probably the most important part is the aftercare. And for us, being a Christian organisation, we consider the real rescue is when they meet Christ.
Yeah.
And I can remember when, in the early days, when we did have that interaction with the girls coming into the program as rescue workers, the highlight for me was when a girl was doing business with God for the first time down in front of the church.
Yeah.
Weeping, hands up, meeting God for the first time. And that for me was when I considered my job done. That's when the real rescue, that's when we have rescued their destiny.
Yeah, nice.
Because you can rescue these kids from, absolute hell on earth, but we need to be rescuing from hell after. So that's the best bit.
Yeah. So there's a spiritual part that you provide and offer for them too.
Yeah, sure.
My understanding is there's also, there's going to be a fair bit of trauma and counselling that's needed, and this is all part of what is actually offered.
Yeah, it's basically the package. Part of with the counselling is very much involved with allowing Jesus to do his job. And to give you some idea on how successful we are. Currently, our statistics are that 80% of the girls that we rescue stay out of that style of that work. Unfortunately, 12% return, 8% unknown. But to give you some sort of idea of how that is that one of the Asian countries that we work in, their government program, which is not Christian, has a 90% unsuccessful rate. So 90% of the girls return to the bars, to that style of work. So we're at the other end of the scale, and the only difference is that Christ gets involved. So we allow him to work in these kids' lives. So very important, that part of the aftercare program.
You may not be able to say this, and we certainly, definitely understand that there's some sensitivities here, which because of the work that you're doing, you can't. These kids, as they're rescued, put into loving homes to have. Are they all together so that they can relate to each other? How do you actually, I suppose, house and then look after them, on a daily basis? Destiny
does have, aftercare homes, facilities. They also, if the child if it's safe enough for them to return home. So if the parents weren't involved in the selling of the children,
which is actually quite high for a lot of kids, right?
Yep. Our caseworkers and social workers have to investigate it. But if it's safe for them, then we want them to be at home, and we'll have their caseworkers and the social workers visit them, working through their needs and that type of thing. So some of the kids will be selling themselves because of school needs, just to put themselves through school. So not necessarily the parents are doing it. So if we can meet that need of schooling and education, then it's fine for them to be staying at home. And that's what it's better to be in a home environment. So, but we also partner with other Christian NGOs throughout the countries that we work in, and they obviously take care of the aftercare as well. But we do have our own homes. We have an outside program as well, and then partnering with other Christian NGOs.
Yeah, it's wonderful. How many people are actually working with Destiny Rescue specifically?
Yeah, good question. For me, I've got about 30 rescue guys, but within the aftercare, there's media, all that sort of stuff. There's probably I'm guessing about 90 all up throughout the countries we're working.
Now, another question: all of them have to be as muscle bound as you are? Because oh my goodness, there's no more intimidating interview I think I've ever had than sitting across from you, Damien. I mean, this is incredible.
No. We obviously have to work it, keep fit, and we do train in the self-defense side of things, and not because we're looking for it, but just in case it does happen. Like I said, we've had guns pulled on us. We've had incidents where we've had to fight our way out of places. So it is very dangerous what we do, and we have measures in place so that we're not exposed and identified as what we're doing, but. For example, just recently in one of the countries we work, unfortunately one of the perpetrators got off in court on a technicality, and so I've been exposed there, and so obviously they're making threats against us and that sort of thing. Not the organisation, but just my alias. So I have to be careful not to go back there, and but it's just good to have those tools in the kicker. So.
Yeah. Absolutely. How does this actually run? How do you actually fund the work that you're actually doing?
Good question. Obviously through supporters, people that can donate to Destiny Rescue and get on board. There's a really simple mathematical equation that we've come up with, and that is money equals rescues.
Yes. Obviously,
the more money we can raise and get supported by then the more rescues we can do. We've proven that we can do it. Our numbers speak loudly, and the relationships that we have in some of these places with the law enforcement are top level. Like, you don't get any higher. It's federal level. And so we're just needing people to obviously give to us so that we can rescue more kids. We're going to hit the 1,000 mark this year.
Yeah. And
we wanted to do that again next year.
Excellent.
And continue to get stronger and stronger. So we are definitely leaders in this industry, and we're just needing people to get on board, get it out there.
Yeah. Question for me is around those who are doing the rescues. Yourself, you've been doing it for almost 10 years, and others who are doing this. There's got to be this remarkable moment of very gratifying that you are changing the life of someone, their destiny here, and potentially post this life as well. So there's some great work there that's happening, and obviously this is why you do it. But I'm imagining what you've seen. The way it doesn't matter how strong you are, whether it's physically strong or mentally strong, it's going to eventually wear you out and make you start questioning life and a whole lot of various things. Psychologically, how do you look after each other? How do you ensure that and everyone's different as well? That this is something that doesn't just say, look, the world's just such an evil place, I can't even cope with this anymore. What do you actually do to help each other in that regard?
We have pastoral care, and as available to all our rescue workers, and also individually, we encourage the guys to have someone that they can go to. So I've got a couple of pastors here in Australia that I can readily chat with. Yeah. As rescue workers, we're a family, so we're very tight, and it's more of a mateship than a working environment.
Sure.
So we're always bouncing things off each other, and we debrief and plan, always meeting, at the beginning of the week, end of week, coming up with plans and talking about how things affected us, and just through the physical side of things, the training and the self-defense and all that sort of stuff. Our trainers there as well are great guys and Christian guys that we can talk to and bounce things off as well. Talking about how it affects us, I can remember only about a year ago, I had a moment where I was wrestling with God, and really at a low point in questioning, are we doing what we're doing? Is it working? Because I think I'd come across I'd heard one of the girls had returned to the bar. It was heartbreaking for us because I spent a lot of time and invested a lot of time and relationship with these girls. Yeah. And so anyway, I was kicking stones, and I can remember for about a week I was questioning, God, saying, God, is this working? What we're doing. And because remember, as rescue workers, we don't have a lot of now. We don't spend a lot of time with the girls. Once they're in the program, we don't see them.
Yes.
We go back out and we're fishing again.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
So it was midnight, and I was catching an early flight. I was in Bangkok, getting an early flight to India the next morning. So I had a night in Bangkok and was staying out near the airport, and I was walking to a 7-Eleven, and literally thinking those thoughts of, are we, is it working what we're doing? And within 1 minute of me, pondering on that, I hear my name get called out near the 7-Eleven that I was walking to. Damien. And I was like, oh no. And I see these two girls running to me, excited, happy to see, a happy run, obviously, not an angry run. And so I was okay to receive the hugs, right? They started hugging me and crying. And a couple that was with them ran up as well, and they're saying, this is the man I've been telling you about. This is the guy. And this is like, and it turns out, and I pulled them back off me and realised who they were. They were two girls that I'd rescued about 2 years prior from northern Thailand. Yes. So I'm in Bangkok. This is northern Thailand. And these girls were crying, and then I started crying, and they're saying, thank you. And I said, what are you guys doing here now? What are you fearing the worst, right? Yes. Fearing they're working in this area. And they're saying, no, we're nurses now. We're working in the local hospital, and I was just like, I was then in tears.
Yes.
and I was like, God going, whack, there you go. This is why you're doing what you're doing. And so they were very thankful. And for 2 years after, we're still telling people about how we'd changed their lives, and I had a lot to do with those girls, doing self-defense with them, the teaching and all that sort of stuff. And to see where they were was just amazing. And then, we went on to the next day, flew out to India, and we rescued a 4-year-old and 2 8-year-olds, and so it was like God was just showing me that we are making an impact. We are making a difference in these kids' lives. Yeah. So I don't question that. I don't question it anymore. That's quite cool.
What a fantastic way to, finish out the stories of what this is. Damien, that is so good to hear. Last thing for me is, if people do want to support and get involved, what's the best website to head to? And
it'll be www.destinyrescue.org.
Fantastic.
So please go to that and support us as much as you can. It costs about $1,500 to rescue one child. Mm-hmm. So not a lot of money for a life.
Yes, absolutely.
And that includes all the restoration side of things.
So that ongoing
finding
work
them.
Well. Yeah. DestinyRescue.org. Damien, thanks so much for your time.
Pleasure. Thanks for having me.